Arden Vale arrived at Outpost Hellion on a quiet morning, the kind of morning where nothing important seemed ready to happen. The sun of the frontier world rose slowly, painting the sky in pale gold. Supply ships drifted in and out of the hangar bays. Security drones floated on patrol routes, and soldiers marched in steady lines across the landing field to most people watching. Arden did not look like someone who belonged in a place known for battles and danger. She stepped off the transport ship with a small duffel bag, her boots clean, and her uniform neatly pressed. She was shorter than most soldiers around her, and her calm eyes studied everything with quiet curiosity instead of fear. Arden was a systems engineer, assigned to the Human Defense Coalition to maintain and repair high-level defense networks. It was not a glamorous job, and it did not earn one special medals or stories that impressed crowds. Most of the engineers worked behind the scenes, rarely stepping onto the battlefield. Arden was comfortable with that. She liked understanding how machines thought, why programs behaved the way they did, how one small change could shift the balance of an entire defense grid. But Outpost Hellion was different. It was one of the closest human bases to the expanding territory of the Vesh Dominion, powerful alien empire known for their ruthless attacks. Reports said the Vesh preferred to overwhelm their enemies with fast, brutal assaults, breaking through defenses before people had time to react. Some rumors claimed the Vesh planned to launch a major push deeper into human-controlled space. As Arden walked through the outpost, she felt the tension in the air. Soldiers spoke quietly. Officers moved quickly from station to station. And even the drones seemed to fly with sharper urgency. "You must be Arden Vale," a voice called from behind. She turned to see a tall man in gray officer armor. His uniform carried the emblem of a senior tactical commander. His expression was sharp and observant. "Yes, sir." "Reporting for duty," Arden replied. "Commander Harlan," he introduced himself. "You're the new systems engineer? We've been expecting you. Follow me." Arden walked beside him through metallic corridors humming with power. Harlan did not speak at first, but Arden could sense he was studying her. Finally he said, "Your record is impressive. Top of your class? But this is the frontier. Things can change quickly out here. Expect the unexpected." Arden nodded. She had heard this before. People often wondered how someone so quiet could handle pressure. Harlan continued, "We are dealing with unusual activity. Minor systems failures. Glitches in the shield network. Drains in the power grid. Nothing that breaks the base, but enough to raise questions." He looked at her. "We need someone who sees details others miss," Arden replied softly. "I'll do my best, sir." He nodded approvingly. "Good. People don't always appreciate the work engineers do, but here, your role matters. More than you may realize." They reached the operations center. The room was large and filled with bright holographic screens. Officers were busy monitoring communications, ship movement, and long-range sensor data. Harlan pointed Arden toward a smaller station connected to the central defense console. "This will be your workspace. Start with a full diagnostic of the shield grid. If the Vesh try anything, that grid is our first line of defense. We cannot afford surprises." Arden sat down and connected her wrist console to the main system. Lines of code flowed across the display. At first glance, everything looked normal, but then she saw small, strange signatures embedded deep in the power routing scripts. They were faint, almost invisible. These were not normal glitches. Someone had been inside the system. But before she could investigate further, the alarm suddenly blared across the entire outpost. Red lights flashed. "Scout strike, incoming." A voice shouted across comms. "All units to defensive positions." Commander Harlan rushed to her. "Vale, we need the shield grid at full power now." Arden's fingers flew over her console. She scanned the grid. Something was wrong, very wrong. The shield power was dropping fast. The system was fighting her commands. A foreign script was trying to lock her out. The Vesh had already infiltrated the grid. It was a coordinated attack. The outpost trembled as enemy shots struck the outer hull. "Shields down to 30%. Another officer shouted. Harlan leaned over her shoulder. "Can you fix it?" Arden did not look up. Yes, but they're using a recursive lockout. If I don't break it cleanly, the entire grid could fail. I need time. We don't have time, Harlan warned. Another blast shook the outpost. Sparks rained down from an overhead panel. Arden took a deep breath. Her heartbeat steadied. The chaos of the room faded away. This world of flashing warnings and urgent commands disappeared as she focused on the code in front of her. She began rewriting the grid's central protocol from the inside, line by line. The hostile code reacted, trying to override her changes. It attempted to lock her out again, but she was faster. She set up decoy pathways. She routed emergency power manually. She bypassed security filters that slowed her down. Every second counted. Finally got you, she whispered. She hit execute. The shield grid surged with new power. Shields rising to 80%. 90%, a technician shouted. And then full strength. The grid is stable. The operations center erupted in relieved cheers. Commander Harlan stared at her with a mix of surprise and respect. Vale. How did you do that so fast? Arden looked up, brushing a strand of hair from her face. I just followed the logic. The system wanted to live. I helped it. Outside. Coalition fighters launched into the sky. With the shields restored, the Vesh scout strike was forced to retreat. The outpost survived with only minor damage. But the moment of victory was overshadowed by something else. The code Arden saw inside the grid was not random sabotage. It was intentional, precise, cutting edge. This was the work of elite Vesh infiltrators, and they had left a signature one. Arden recognized from old intelligence reports a mark used by a notorious Vesh group known as the Night Talons. She sat back quietly, processing this. Helion wasn't just a random target. The Vesh were testing human defenses, studying weaknesses, planning something bigger. Harlan came beside her, crossing his arms. We would have lost the base if not for you. I hope you understand that. Arden shook her head. I was just doing my job, sir. No, he said firmly. You did more than that. She glanced again at the code traces still glowing faintly on her console. Something told, or this was only the beginning. Later that evening, words spread across the outpost of the young engineer who saved the day. Soldiers whispered about her speed. Officers asked about her training. And even pilots wanted to meet the person who kept the shield up long enough for them to fight. Arden didn't like the attention. She accepted it politely. To her, the work mattered more than the praise, in her small quarters that night. She sat on the bed with her wrist console open, analyzing what remained of the infiltrator code. The strange patterns, the hidden loops, the careful structure, they all pointed to a skilled enemy. The Night Talons were not ordinary hackers. They were strategic saboteurs trained to break human defenses from the inside. If they were active near Helion, then the frontier was in far more danger than anyone wanted to admit. But Arden felt no fear. Instead, she felt a steady, growing determination. She whispered to herself, if they want to play with human systems, then I'll be ready for them. Outside her window, the sky darkened. Distant stars shimmered like scattered sparks. Somewhere beyond those stars, the Vesh Dominion was preparing its next move, and without realizing it, Arden Vale had just taken her first step toward becoming the one name the Vesh would soon fear. The next morning at Outpost Helion began with a tense. It was the kind of silence that followed after danger had passed but still lingered in the air like smoke. Soldiers walked with quicker steps, officers whispered over datapads, and even the drones flew in tighter formation. Everyone knew the Vesh scout strike had been only the first warning. Arden Vale headed toward the operations center with her wrist console in hand. She had barely slept. Her mind kept replaying the lines of corrupted code she had seen during the attack. The patterns, the loops, the signature, there was no mistake. The Night Talons, one of the Vesh Dominion's deadliest infiltrator units, had touched Helion's systems. Most engineers might have ignored such a faint trace, but Arden recognized the danger immediately. Where the Night Talons appeared, destruction soon followed. When she stepped into the operations center, Commander Harlan was already waiting for her. His face looked more tired than usual. Vale, he said. Walk with me. Arden followed him into a side briefing room. A holographic map of the frontier displayed several flashing red markers, each one representing a different outpost. These are the bases that reported system malfunctions in the last 72 hours, Harlan said. Individually, the problems look random power drains, communication failures, drone misfires. But when you look at them together, Arden studied the map. The pattern became clear. It forms a line, she said softly. Moving closer to Helion. Harlan nodded. Exactly. Someone is testing us. Going base to base, searching for weaknesses. Arden stepped closer to the hologram and zoomed into the most recent malfunction outpost, Meridian, 2 sectors away. Did they report any code anomalies? She asked. Nothing they could identify, Harlan replied. But I spoke with their chief engineer this morning. They said the malfunctions felt coordinated. He paused, watching her expression. Do you think it's the same group that hit our shields? Arden nodded slowly. Yes, sir. This feels like the Night Talons pattern. They push lightly at first, then harder. He pointed at the map. Soon, they will strike somewhere with full force. Harlan's jaw tightened. We need proof, and we need it fast. Before Arden could respond, a loud alert sounded across the outpost. Perimeter breach detected in Sector 4. All units prepare for engagement. Harlan immediately opened a communication channel. Report, he demanded. A voice came through, urgent and strained. Commander, we've detected unauthorized drones near the shield edge. They're not attacking. They're scanning us. Arden felt her pulse quicken. Sir, that's a Night Talon tactic. They collect system data before launching a real assault. They're looking for the gaps left after last night's attack. Harlan nodded. Vale, to the command station. See what you can find. Arden hurried to her console as the room burst into motion. She connected her wrist device and pulled up live drone feeds. Small, dark shapes hovered at the edge of the shield, moving with unnatural precision. They weren't simple machines. They were Vesh recon drones, fast, silent, and capable of slicing through encrypted signals. Arden began tracing their activity. They're scanning our shield rhythm, she said, and the power loops. If they find the wrong point, they can collapse the grid again. One of the officers turned to Harlan. Sir, should we launch fighters to destroy them? Arden shook her head. No, that's what they want. If we attack, they'll scatter. We need to capture their data instead. Harlan looked at her. Explain. If we let them continue for a few seconds, I can trace their signal back to their controller. Maybe even find the Night Talon's location. But if we shoot them down now, we lose the link. Harlan hesitated only a moment. Do it. Arden took a breath and started typing rapidly. The Vesh drones were smart. They scrambled their signal patterns every few milliseconds. But Arden had a talent no machine could match. She followed the logic behind the code, predicting where the next signal jump would land. Almost. She whispered as her fingers moved. Then she hit a wall. The Vesh drones detected her. Trace attempt. Their signals suddenly exploded into dozens of false pathways, each one designed to confuse her. Officers around the room tensed as the drones shifted into more aggressive patterns. They're trying to overload the shield sensor grid. Someone shouted. Arden leaned in closer, squinting at the cascading data. Not if I catch the real link first. Her hands moved with calm precision. She ignored the false signals. Searching for the one thread that felt different, the one that carried intention, she found it. A thin, subtle pulse, hidden beneath the noise. A signature she recognized. There you are, she murmured. She locked onto it. The drones jerked in response, their flight erratic. The controller on the Vesh side realized someone was fighting the man winning. Trace almost complete, Arden said. Just need a few more seconds. The drone suddenly dove toward the shield, attempting to overload it with a concentrated burst. Red warnings filled the screens. Impact in 3 seconds. A technician yelled. Harlan turned to Arden. Vale. Now would be a good time. Arden pressed the final command. Trace locked. She hit execute, and transmission blocked. She cut off the drones from their controller. Outside, the recon drones slammed into the EP. Shield and fried instantly, but it didn't matter. Arden now had their trace, a location. Appeared on her console, small abandoned mining moon 2. Sectors away. She turned to Harlan. Sir, I found where they're hiding. The Night Talons are there. All of them. The room fell silent. Harlan's voice was low. Are you certain? Arden nodded. Yes, sir. The signal was masked, but the origin path is clear. If we move quickly, we can intercept them before they launch another attack. Harlan exhaled. Good work, Vale. I'll inform High Command. But before he could send the message, another alarm blared. Unidentified shuttle detected entering atmosphere. Arden quickly brought up visual feed. A small metallic craft was spiraling down toward the outpost. At first it looked damaged, but then Arden saw the sharp angles and dark plating. It was Vesh design. Sir Arden said quietly. That shuttle isn't crashing. It's landing. On purpose. Harlan's eyes narrowed. All security teams prepare for contact. The shuttle hit the ground outside the main hangar with a harsh screech. Dust exploded into the air. Soldiers surrounded it instantly. Weapons raised. Arden watched through the camera feed as the shuttle door slowly opened. A single figure stepped out. Tall, armored, silent. Night Talon operative. The alien raised its clawed hand and activated a small device. Every screen in the operations center flickered. They're trying to hack us again. An officer yelled. Arden was already typing. I see it. They're targeting the drone bay control system. She froze. No, they're targeting our drones. They want to turn them against us. The Night Talon operative outside stood motionless, its device glowing brighter. One by one, Coalition combat drones in the hangar began powering up without human commands. Arden said urgently, if those drones take off, they'll fire on our own people. We need to shut them down now. Harlan's voice was sharp. Do whatever you must. Arden dove into the drone control grid. The Night Talon had already inserted a command loop that overwrote human input. The drone's targeting systems were recalibrating, locking onto human signatures. Arden fought through the corrupted code. The alien script moved like it was a life-changing shape, redirecting her efforts, trying to outthink her. But Arden did not panic. She rewrote the root access keys. She built a silent override channel. She inserted false command, signals to confuse the enemy script. Then she found the core of the attack, a single line that controlled the entire Asir. Loop, she deleted it. The drones froze, then powered down outside. The Night Talon operative let out a sharp hiss. Realizing its attack had failed, soldiers took the chance and opened fire. The alien fell within seconds. Inside the operations center, everyone breathed a collective sigh of relief. Harlan looked at Arden with clear respect. You saved us again. Twice in one day. Arden shook her head, still focused on her console. Sir, this wasn't a real attack. It was a distraction. Harlan frowned. A distraction from what? Arden pulled up a final data window. The trace location I found. It was altered. They wanted us to find it. The Night Talons are leading us somewhere. Helen's expression hardened. Why lead us? Arden stared at the shifting code on her screen.
Cause, sir.
They're not finished with us. They're planning something bigger, and they want us to walk right into it. She closed her console, and for the first time, she felt the true weight of what she was facing. The Night Talons weren't just testing systems. They were hunting her. The abandoned mining moon orbiting the red giant star looked dead from space. Gray dust storms curled across its surface like slow-moving ghosts, hiding broken structures beneath swirling clouds. No signs of life. No signals. No movement, but Arden Vale knew better. She stood inside the Coalition shuttle, staring at the moon through the cockpit window. Her fingers tightened around her wrist console. The Night Talons were here. She felt it. Their code, their traps, their presence. The same sharp, precise patterns she had traced during the drone breach. Commander Harlan stood beside her. "Nervous?" he asked quietly. Arden shook her head. "Just focused, sir." He gave a faint smile. "Good. Focus will keep us alive." Behind them, a small strike team checked weapons and gear. 6 soldiers, elite and experienced, handpicked for the mission. Arden felt out of place among them. They moved with confidence, ready for combat. She moved with caution, ready for code. But Harlan insisted she was essential. "This mission isn't about firepower," he had said. "It's about brains. And the Night Talons are using their smartest operatives." As the shuttle descended through the dusty atmosphere, Arden watched the mining facilities rise from the fog. Tall, abandoned towers. Silent conveyor lines. Cargo cranes frozen mid-motion. The place looked untouched for years. But suddenly, her wrist console flashed. "Sir," she said quickly, "I'm picking up something." Weak signal. Artificial. Harlan leaned closer. "Coordinates." Arden expanded the trace. "North side of the main refinery. Could be systems activity." Harlan nodded to the pilot. "Land us nearby. Everyone be ready." The shuttle touched down with a soft thud. The ramp opened, releasing a gust of cold air. The surface felt colder than expected. Like all warmth had been drained away years ago. The strike team stepped out first, scanning for threats. Arden followed behind, staying close to Commander Harlan. Dust swirled around their boots as they moved toward the refinery. Massive structure with cracked walls and silent machinery. "Place feels wrong." One soldier muttered, another replied, "Everything feels wrong when Vesh are involved." Harlan raised a hand. Eyes open. Helmets on full scan mode. Arden walked quietly, listening. The wind scraped against broken metal plates. Every sound echoed too loudly. They reached a side entrance of the refinery. The door, though rusted, was ajar. Harlan motioned for 2 soldiers to enter first. Inside, the air was stale. The hallways were dim, lit only by their helmet lights. Abandoned mining carts lay overturned. Walls were covered in dust. Everything looked untouched. But Arden felt the presence of code, like a faint pulse. They followed her wrist console deeper into the facility. Every step felt heavier. The hallways grew darker, colder. Suddenly Arden stopped. "Sir," she whispered. "Something's here." She pointed at her console. Signal spike. Very close. The soldier at the front held up a fist, signaling everyone to halt. They moved quietly along the corridor until they reached a wide chamber. That was when they saw it. A cluster of human machines drones. Communication modules, shield generators torn apart and reassembled into a strange Vesh configuration. The pieces were fused with alien tech, their shapes twisted into something unnatural. "What is this?" a soldier whispered. Arden stepped forward, eyes wide. "It's a hybrid setup. They're combining human tech with their own systems, training themselves to hack us faster, learning our patterns, studying our weaknesses." One soldier knelt beside a device. "It feels like a lab," Arden nodded. "A research station. They're experimenting." Harlan's expression darkened. "On what?" Arden glanced at the glowing core connected to the machines. "Our systems. They're building a mirror of human technology. If they complete this, they could break into any coalition base." The team looked horrified. Harlan said, "Can you disable it?" Arden looked at the tangled code on her console. "Maybe, but if I touch the wrong line, it might alert the Night Talons." Harlan gave her a steady look. "Do what you can." Arden knelt beside the core. Her fingers moved across her console as she studied the alien code. It pulsed with sharp logic, dangerous and intelligent. It wanted to evolve. She found the central command line. She reached for it, then froze. A faint sound came from the corridor behind them. A scrape on metal. Harlan signaled the team to spread out. The sound grew louder. Arden slowly turned. A Vesh Knight Talon operative stepped into the chamber. Its armor was black, its eyes bright gold, scanning the room with cold precision. It hissed when it saw the humans and, especially when it saw Arden. Harlan shouted, "Contact!" and the soldiers opened fire. The Knight Talon moved with incredible speed, dodging bullets with sharp, animal-like grace. It leaped onto a wall, then onto a platform, firing a burst of electric energy at the soldiers. Arden ducked behind a console as sparks erupted. Another soldier fell. A second Knight Talon appeared from the shadows. Then a third, sir, Arden shouted. This was a setup. They wanted us here. Harlan gritted his teeth as he fired. Fall back. But the exit behind them slammed shut with a heavy crash. Arden looked at her console. They've locked us inside. The Knight Talons advanced. One soldier was thrown across the room. Another was hit by a stunning blast and collapsed. Arden's heart pounded. She should have been terrified, but instead, something inside her sharpened. She saw the pattern. The Knight Talons were controlling the environment through the hybrid core. The doors, the lights, even the facility's gravity panels all linked through that system. Sir, Arden called out. I can get us out, but I need time. Harlan shouted back, Do it. We'll hold them off. Arden turned her attention to the glowing core again. Her fingers raced across her console. She bypassed the alien encryption, ignoring the warnings flashing on her screen. Behind her, soldiers shouted and fired. Metal clashed. Sparks flew. She found the lock command. She rewired it tanned. The exit door blasted open. Go, Harlan ordered. The team moved toward the exit until a Knight Talon dropped from the ceiling. Blocking their path, it lunged. Harlan engaged it hand to hand. Barely dodging its claws, Arden hesitated only 1 second then. Ran toward a control panel on the wall. She connected. Her device enforced a surge through the mining facility's power grid. The lights flickered, gravity shifted. The Knight Talon attacking Harlan stumbled. Suddenly thrown sideways, Harlan fired. The alien fell. Move, he ordered. They rushed out of the chamber, but the moment they entered the next hallway, the facility shook violently. Arden gasped. They're overloading the core. They're going to destroy the station. Harlan turned to the team. Double time to the shuttle? They ran through collapsing corridors, dodging falling beams and explosions. Dust choked the air. Alien alarms wailed through the building. Arden led the way using her console's map. Guiding them through the maze-like facility, they reached the exit door just as another Knight Talon appeared. It hissed and charged. Arden stepped forward. She activated a device she had taken from the hybrid core. It glowed bright blue dot. The alien froze. Arden threw the device at its feet. A shockwave exploded outward. Sending the Knight Talon flying, the team ran for the shuttle. Behind them, the entire facility began to collapse. Dust erupting into the sky. They boarded the shuttle and strapped in. Pilot, take us up! Harlan yelled. The engines roared. The shuttle blasted upward just as a massive explosion tore through the mining station. Flames and debris shot into the air. The ground cracked open. Arden stared through the window. Breathing hard, she did not feel triumph. She felt dread. Because the Knight Talons had let them escape. Everything she saw, everything they fought it was organized, intentional, a trap. Harlan sat beside her. Thale, talk to me. What did you find in that system? Arden swallowed. Sir, they were building something. Learning from our tech. Studying our defenses. She looked at him sharply. And they were using a human quantum command core. Harlan froze. Those are classified units. None should be outside Central Command. Arden nodded. One was stolen months ago, and now the Vesh have it. They were testing it inside that station. Harlan's face hardened. What does that mean? Arden looked out the window as the burning facility shrank behind them. It means, sir, the Vesh Dominion can now command human systems from anywhere. Shields, drones, defense grids, entire cities. She turned back toward him. They're getting ready to use it. Shuttle flew into the dark sky, and Arden knew the real war was only beginning. The flight back to Outpost Helion was silent. Not come silent in the heavy, suffocating way that followed a close escape. The strike team sat in their seats, their armor scratched and scorched from battle. 2 soldiers were being treated for injuries. Commander Harlan stared at mission logs with an unreadable expression. Arden Vale sat near the window, watching the stars stretch into long white lines as the shuttle entered jump space. Her hands still shook slightly, not from fear, but from the weight of what she had learned. The Vesh Dominion had stolen human quantum command core, and the Night Talons had been learning how to control every major coalition defense system. The mining moon was only a small piece of a much larger puzzle. Something massive was coming. Harlan finally broke the silence. "Vale," he said, voice low, "that core you found, can it be used long range? Across sectors?" Arden nodded slowly. "Yes, sir. A quantum command core is designed to send control signals faster than light. If the Vesh fully understand it, they could shut down any human defense grid in seconds." One of the soldiers swore under his breath. Harlan leaned back. "We're running out of time." Arden looked at her wrist console again. She had saved fragments of the Vesh hybrid code during the mission. She studied them quietly. Something was wrong. "The patterns were too Clinton polished," she whispered. "They weren't just studying our systems. They were preparing for something specific." Harlan looked at her. "What do you mean?" "These commands, they're not random tests. They're part of a larger sequence. I think they're getting ready to target something. A big target." Harlan's expression tightened. "Which target?" Arden shook her head. "I don't know yet. But when we get back to Helion, I'll need full access to the command data archives." Harlan nodded. "You'll have it." Turned to Helionth. Shuttle landed at Helionth 3 hours later. The outpost looked more tense than before. Soldiers moved quickly. Patrols doubled. Officers spoke urgently into comm channels. As Arden stepped off the ramp, she noticed several officers watching her, whispering, pointing. The story of the mission had reached them already. Arden kept her eyes down. She didn't like attention. She only wanted to get back to the systems room. Commander Harlan led her there personally. "Vale," he said, "the entire coalition wants answers. You're the only one who understands the enemy code. Whatever you find, tell me immediately." Arden nodded. "Yes, sir." She settled into her workstation, plugged in her wrist console, and began transferring the hybrid data she had copied. Lines of shimmering alien script filled the screen. Arden stared at it. Searching for meaning, the enemy code pulsed like a living thing. She took a deep breath and began analyzing. Minutes turned into an hour, then 2, then 5. Arden didn't move, didn't speak, didn't blink. Finally, she saw the pattern. Her eyes widened. She whispered, "Oh no." The Night Talons weren't preparing to strike a random target. They had been mapping the coalition's largest, Satinova Prime, 8 million people. If the Vesh took control of the city's defense systems, they could turn the city into a trap. They could shut down all shields, lock down evacuation routes, and even redirect drones to attack civilians. And the Night Talons were ready. Arden shot to her feet and ran to Commander Harlan's office. She burst in without knocking. "Sir, they're targeting Nova Prime." Harlan stood immediately. "How soon?" Arden shook her head. "The sequence is almost complete. They're going to attack within hours. Maybe less." Harlan tapped his cum. "All command staff, emergency meeting. Now." He turned to her. "Vale, you're coming with me?" Emergency meeting. Hoyin's command chamber filled within minutes. High-ranking officers and specialists crowded around the central holography. Sea table. Arden felt dozens of eyes on her. Harlan spoke first. "Outpost Helion has confirmed enemy infiltration by the Night Talons. They have acquired a quantum command core, and we now have intelligence on their target. Vale." Arden stepped forward, feeling her heart pounding. She activated her console. A hologram of Nova Prime appeared. Quiet murmurs filled the room. Arden pointed to the city's defense grid. The Night Talons had been mapping every layer of this network for weeks. The power loops, the shield control rhythm, the drone protocols, everything. They're preparing to override it all. An officer asked, "Can we block them?" Arden hesitated. "Not with standard defenses. They're using a quantum core. They can send commands that our systems will accept as legitimate." Another officer leaned forward. "How do we stop them?" Arden looked down at her console, then up again. Her voice was steady. "We fight them with code, someone asked. Arden nodded. "I'm the only one who has seen their patterns up close. The only one who understands how their hybrid system works, and the only one who can counter it fast enough." Harlan crossed his arms proudly. "I trust her. And the rest of you should too." The room fell into uneasy silence. Then an officer said, "What do you need?" Arden swallowed. "Full access to the city grid. All encrypted layers. And the authority to rewrite protocols during the attack?" There were gasps. Someone whispered, "That's insane. One wrong command, and she could crash the entire system." Harlan cut in sharply. "And if she does nothing, the Vesh will kill 8 million people." The debate ended. Arden received full access. The attack begins, hours later. A terrible alarm echoed across Hellion. Unidentified quantum signatures detected. Nova Prime is under direct assault. Arden sprinted back to the operations center. The screens lit up with chaos. City shields flickered. Civilian drones malfunctioned. Defense cannons locked onto friendly targets. Arden plugged into the city. Grid her console flashed rapidly with Vesh commands. "They're in," she whispered. Harlan stood behind her. "Vale, it's all on you now." Arden began typing. Her hands moved faster than anyone had ever seen. She rewrote shield rhythms. She blocked override loops. She corrupted enemy command signals with false paths, all while the Night Talons pushed harder. Alien code slashed through the grid like a blade. Arden countered it with precision. Every moment felt like a battle. Every second mattered. Then something unexpected happened. The Vesh shifted tactics instead of trying to break the grid. They began inserting deceptive loop silent commands that hid inside the city's basic functions. Arden's eyes narrowed. "They're adapting to me," she whispered. "They're learning how I think," Harlan said. "Then think faster." Arden forced a deep breath. She changed rhythm. Instead of fighting the enemy code head-on, she began weaving around it, twisting it, confusing it, trapping it inside decoy barriers. Her movements looked almost artistic. Officers watched in awe as she guided the city grid through a deadly code storm. Then, a sudden spike hit the main defense. "Hub, they're going for the core generator," Arden shouted. If they shut it down, the city would fall instantly. Arden opened 3 systems at once and began typing in all of them. Her fingers blurred across the keys. Finally, she found the invading script. She isolated it. She cut it. The defense grid stabilized. Arden exhaled shakily. "It's working," she whispered. "I'm stopping them." But then her screen went dark. Total blackout. Alien symbols flared across the consoles. Harlan stepped forward. "Vale." Arden's voice cracked. "They're pushing a full neural override. They're trying to take every system at once." Harlan looked panicked. "Can you block it?" Arden didn't answer. She closed her eyes. She reached deep into the system. She activated a trick. She had kept secret her own personal code signature, a pattern she used when working on sensitive networks. A pattern no Vesh could understand. She injected it into the grid. The system lit up. With her unique signature, the Vesh code hesitated. It tried to mimic her pattern. It failed. Arden forced the system into a new configuration. She locked out the Vesh quantum signals. She activated a citywide barrier protocol. Come on, come on, she whispered, then dashed the entire Vesh command structure collapsed. Enemy drones shut down. Shields stabilized. Cannons reset. Nova Prime was safe. The operations center erupted in cheers. Harlan looked at Arden with astonishment. You did it. You actually did it. But Arden barely heard him. On one remaining Vesh frequency, a voice hissed. The human. The one with the ghost signal. She is dangerous. Fear the ghost stitch. The room went silent. Harlan whispered, Ghost Stitch. Arden looked up, breathless. That was the moment her legend began, and the moment the enemy began to fear her name. The alarms at Outpost Hellion had finally fallen silent. Hours had passed since the Vesh assault on Nova Prime had been stopped. But the outpost still felt the echo of danger in every hallway. Soldiers walked with tense shoulders. Officers checked systems again and again, searching for any hidden enemy signals. No one could relax, except one person, Arden Vale, who, for the first time in many hours, sat quietly on a bench just outside the operations center. Her head rested against the wall. Her eyes were closed. Her breathing had finally slowed from shaky to steady. Around her, Tex whispered while passing by. That's her, the one who countered the Vesh. Ghost Stitch. They're calling her Ghost Stitch. Arden heard the whispers, but she didn't react. She wasn't used to attention, and honestly, she didn't want it. She only wanted to make sure the system stayed stable and that Nova Prime was safe, but even sitting still, she could feel it in the air. Everything had changed. Commander Harlan stepped out of the operations room and spotted her. Vale, he said gently. You should rest. Arden opened her eyes. I will, sir. Just not yet. Harlan sat beside her, letting out a long breath. You saved 8 million people today. Arden shook her head. No, the whole team did. I just did my part. Harlan smiled faintly. Maybe. But the Vesh weren't whispering my name before they fled. They were whispering yours. Arden looked away, uncomfortable. I didn't do it for a name. I know, Harlan said. That's what makes it real. A galaxy on alert news of the battle at Nova Prime spread faster than light. Communications networks across human space repeated the same headline. Vesh, assault fails. Unknown human hacker stops quantum invasion. On distant colonies, people cheered. On military bases, soldiers stood taller, proud of what humanity had achieved. Even civilian families in remote settlements felt hope. For a long time, fear had been something humans carried quietly in their bones. The Vesh Dominion was older, stronger, more ruthless. Their claws ripped apart starships. Their war machines burned cities. Their technology bent physics, but this time, the enemy had been defeated not by a giant ship or a superweapon, but by a human mind, a calm, determined engineer who refused to give up. Arden Vale, or as the Vesh now called her, Ghost Stitch. The name spread through enemy intelligence so quickly that within a day, entire Vesh battalions were ordered to retreat if they detected her digital signature. Her mere presence in a system real or imagined was enough to make their commanders panic. A visit from High Command 3. Days after the battle, Helion received an important visitor. A sleek diplomatic shuttle landed on the pad, and out stepped Admiral Raylan Dross, the highest-ranking defense officer in the eastern sector. He arrived with guards, aides, and an air of extreme urgency. Commander Harlan met him at the landing pad. Admiral, welcome to Helion. Dross nodded once. I want to meet her. Harlan didn't need to ask who he meant. Arden was waiting in the command chamber, still wearing the same uniform she had worn during the battle. She stood as the Admiral approached, unsure whether she should salute or bow or do nothing at all. She settled for an awkward salute. Arden Vale, Admiral Dross said, the Coalition owes you a debt greater than you know. Arden swallowed nervously. Sir, I just did what was needed. Exactly. And that is why you're dangerous too, the Vesh, and valuable to us. He placed a small silver data badge on the table. The room fell silent. Harlan stiffened. Admiral. Is that yes? Dross said. A designation of strategic priority. Only 3 humans in the last century have received this level of access. He turned to Arden. With this, you can enter any coalition defense system, any encryption layer, any secure network. You will no longer need permission. You will be the permission. Arden stared at the badge, sir. I'm not sure I'm ready for that kind of responsibility. No one ever is, Dross said. But you earned it. And the Vesh fear you. That gives us a weapon we never had before. Arden didn't touch the badge. Not a weapon. I'm an engineer. Dross smiled gently. Sometimes, Vale, they're the same thing. Her decision after the Admiral left. Arden sat alone in the quiet of the command chamber. The data badge lay in front of her. It seemed almost too heavy for its small size. She thought about Nova Prime, about the people who lived there, about the soldiers she had worked beside, about the laughter she had heard after the victory. She also thought about the fear she had seen in the Vesh transmissions. She understood something clearly now. The war was far from over, but humanity finally had something new. Not a super weapon. Not an unbeatable fleet, but a chance. She picked up the badge. Her fingers tightened around it. All right, she whispered to herself. If this is what I can do, then I'll do it. A new mission later that evening, Harlan found her in the systems room again, surrounded by glowing screens. Already working? He asked,